What's going on, guys? My name is Mike, and this is the Looter's Guide to Iridian Technology, also known as E-Tech. Now, this is not one of the 8 weapon companies, because we covered all of them, but it's about as complex as, like, a bunch of these weapon companies are. So I felt like it was worth checking out, and a lot of you guys have been asking for it, so let's go ahead and get started. So it's probably a good idea to first figure out what is an E-Tech weapon and what isn't, and how to distinguish between the difference. Now, the easiest way to do that is to look at the color or the rarity of the gun. If it's anything but Magenta, which is pink, then it's not an E-Tech weapon. Now, if you're seeing something that looks like a pinkish color, then you're good to go. That's an E-Tech weapon, and it's going to have quite a few different traits compared to the other weapons. It's also about as rare as a purple, so keep that in mind. It's pretty rare. Now, almost all E-Tech weapons fire 2 ammo per shot, so this is going to be very costly over time, but it's essentially shooting 2 shots at once because you're doing more damage because it's E-Tech. Now, all weapon types, which are basically assault rifles, pistols, shotguns, have E-Tech variants, so this is going to mean that there's going to be about 6 weapon types we're going to be covering in this video. They also usually have very low muzzle velocity, which means the speed of which the bullet is coming out of the gun, and because it's low, you can actually very easily see the bullet coming out. But they also usually have high damage, so it's a decent trade-off. Now, it's also worth mentioning that it is very hard, and I mean very hard, to actually hit flying enemies in this game with an E-Tech weapon because of the low muzzle velocity. So it's something worth mentioning. It's very difficult. Each of the E-Tech variants also take a bonus from the manufacturer that creates them. You know, for example, a TDR E-Tech weapon explodes when you reload it. You know, it throws the gun and explodes. So they all have their own little special bonuses on their guns. Now, in pretty much every single E-Tech weapon, you'll find the fish gills on the sides of the guns. You know those things where you shoot for an extended period of time, and you'll see them kind of expand. It's a really cool effect, and I like it a lot. But that is the aesthetic of these weapons, and I very much do appreciate it. Now, like I said, we're going to be covering the 6 different weapon types for E-Tech, and really what we're going to be covering is the trends, which is just basically what are the basic guidelines that these guns seem to follow. The assault rifles are only manufactured by Dahl, Vladof, and Bandit. You won't see any Jacobs or Torg assault rifles in here, and I don't really know why, but it's just how it is. Now, there are 2 different types of these guns. Basically, one is called Blasters, which is made by Dahl and Vladof, and Blaster by Bandit. You'll notice a difference when you see the spelling and the pronunciation. Basically, Blaster, you have the ASS capitalized. How cute. That's pretty much it, though. There isn't much change. It depends on each manufacturer and how they fix up the gun. Blasters do have huge magazine sizes, though. Now, the submachine guns are made by Hyperion, Maliwan, Dahl, TDR, and Bandit, so you have a much larger variety in this case. Now, these are called plasma casters, and they have a special barrel with 3 muzzles and an underbarrel lighter, kind of like a flamethrower looking thing, and they essentially fire slow-moving energy balls. It's actually pretty cool. The E-Tech SMGs basically have increased damage, a higher magazine size, and a higher elemental effect chances when you compare them to the standard SMGs of a similar manufacturer. So it's pretty good in all cases, but like I said, it's very hard to shoot flying enemies with these things, especially when you're shooting energy balls. All companies produce pistols as well as their E-Tech variants, and there's 2 types of these pistols. You have the Spiker and the Dart, and they're essentially smart projectiles, or homing pistols. They essentially shoot and they lock on to targets and explode on them. The Spikers fire slightly faster than darts, but they don't ricochet, while the darts ricochet several times before exploding. They are very slow moving, they stick to enemies, and they explode after a slight delay. There is no damage until the delayed explosion, so you won't know if you hit the enemy or not, which is extremely aggravating, but essentially it's spray and pray. And you're also unable to do a critical hit, so that is a major downside to these pistols. For the shotguns, they are produced by Hyperion, TDR, and Bandit, and of course Bandit likes to have their own little types, so we're going to have 2 different types of weapon variants. The first one is Splat Guns by Hyperion and TDR, and the Bandit variant is called Splasher Blasters, and that is so hard to say. But basically, both of them shoot like projectiles in a sort of arc, like a grenade launcher. And as for the Splat Gun, it fires a single projectile, but depending on the manufacturer and elemental, it may bounce or might just splat. It also causes area of effect damage, AoE, every time it hits a surface. As you may know, Tediore has this sort of reloading effect where you basically throw the gun and it explodes and does some extra damage. Well, this does carry over quite nicely into the E-Tech shotties because not only does it explode after reloading, but it causes a MIRV-like effect, which if you don't know is essentially it explodes and then 3 more little explosions come out and then explode. It's like, you know, little bombs or grenades. And it's a really cool effect, and it does do quite a bit of damage. Now, the Splasher Blaster, that just sounds so weird, launches multiple projectiles with like a sort of fair-sized explosive radius. It's not too crazy, but you get more projectiles at once. Now, the E-Tech sniper rifles are produced by Maliwan, Dahl, Hyperion, and Vladov. There are 3 different types, and thankfully the bandits aren't here, so they don't have their own little special type. You have Railer, Hybridification, that is weird, and Moloko. They all consume 2 ammo per shot, pretty much like every other weapon type here, and they all have really fast fire rates. So that's really interesting, it's a nice touch. The Railer bounces off surfaces and the enemies they hit, so it can really go crazy with that. The Hybridification is Hyperion exclusive, and it's reduced recoil over time. You know, it's Hyperion, they do their own thing. The Moloko is got something pretty interesting. It has a very high elemental chance, so this is great for a Necromancer or a Siren. Now, the rocket launcher trends are a bit more confusing than the others, as there are 4 different types here. You got the Plasma Cannon, PBFG, Launcher, and Topnia. Yeah, there's actually a lot here. They basically mainly shoot spheres at enemies. That's as simple as it gets. The Plasma Cannon hurls balls of energy that leaves and drops more balls of energy as it travels, and if you didn't know, this is bandit exclusive. For the PBFG, if the initial shot impacts the enemy, it will spread via blue spheres to surrounding enemies in the area. This is perfect for multi-target situations, and the Cataclysm effect also ignores terrain and cover. The Launcher, which is actually the name, it's pretty uncreative, is a Tediore variant. It's a slow-moving sphere, and it traps enemies in the sphere. This gives an effect to nearby enemies as well. Now, the Topnia, and I don't know how to say that, surrounds enemies in a large radius with damaging energy spheres. It only consumes 1 round, sometimes less, per shot. Now, that would wrap it up for the 6 E-Tech weapon types in the game, but there's actually a slight bonus here. There is a single E-Tech grenade in this game called the Breath of Terramorphous. It's an incendiary grenade that it has an area of effect and spawns basically small little child grenades that shoot geysers of flames upward, and it burns anything near. It is an awesome thing to use. So as you can see, Iridian technology is filled with information, even littered with information, so much so that there's probably stuff I missed. So if I did, let me know in the comments below, and everybody would greatly appreciate that if you did. But also, what is your favorite E-Tech weapon or weapon type? Just let me know. Mine personally is the shotguns. I really enjoy the shotguns in this game for the Iridian technology variants, like the Splasher Blaster by Bandit, which is really starting to get me on nerves about how to pronounce that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, recommend me for some new Looters Guides ideas, like grenade mods or shield guides, anything of the sort. Actually, maybe even Seraph gear if there's enough there. So just let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.